let's get into it. Let me just grab a quick sip. So inquiry question is, how does mutation introduce new alleles into the population? So module 6 is a really nice segue from module 5, where now when we look at mutations, firstly we're going back to our processes of replication, translation, transcription, and talking about mutations affecting those processes. Okay, here we are. So first question we have here is that we're going to look at is, how do mutagens operate, the different types of mutations. We're going to talk about somatic versus germline mutation, and then talk about the effects of mutations on coding versus non-coding DNA, and then look at causes of genetic variation, and finish off by talking about population genetics. So we're going to talk about mutations, gene flow, and genetic drift. So here we are. Inquiry question is, how does mutation introduce new alleles into a population? Remember, a mutation, firstly, is a permanent alteration to the nucleotide sequence of an organism's genome. This is where we are permanently altering someone's, or rather, natural circumstances, or their own system leads to the alteration of someone's own nucleotide sequences, which then changes the proteins that they are able to make. However, we will talk about how actually mutations, at the end of the day, they lead to genetic variation. And this is one of the key concepts here, is that the aim is for genetic variation for the continuity of species in a way. Right, and I'm kind of linking this back to module 5 here, but that's the key there. So we want to now talk about how through these different processes genetic variation is achieved. So mutation leads to the creation of new alleles through point and chromosomal mutations. Even if those alleles may not be the most beneficial, it still leads to the production of those alleles. Meiosis is when those alleles are recombined and sorted in random independent ways. So remember, we have crossing over, we have random segregation. So the way in which those chromosomes are separated is random, and also the way in which they're sorted and separated is also random. So that's independent assortment and random segregation. Crossing over, really important. You know these three processes in detail. Like, I would add that to my notes. And finally, fertilization. So this is where these variable alleles from two different organisms are brought together, and they interact in new ways to lead to the creation of new alleles and new phenotypes. So there is an uncontrollable combination of a number of possible gametes, and the interaction of alleles to produce phenotype also leads to genetic variation.